Hi, I'm Cami Mclelland. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a home that embraced the truth of Jesus, and my parents were both strong in their faith. I was adopted at a very young age, and although I always knew that my parents loved me, I often felt like I didn't truly belong as I grew up. I experienced a lot of bullying throughout my childhood by other kids I was in school with. I didn't have a lot of confidence, and I questioned my worth. I ended up changing schools multiple times, trying to find a good environment, but I still never felt like I fit in. I often questioned why God would let kids be so mean to me and why He'd allow me to feel so alone. When I was 13 years old, my grandfather committed suicide, and of course my family was absolutely heartbroken. I was hurt, sad, angry, and all of this led me to question God and His goodness even more. I began to feel resentment towards Him as I wondered how He could let this happen. When I went to high school and started driving, my parents let me decide for myself whether or not I wanted to go to church on Sundays. I had always called myself a Christian, but I never found that personal connection to God. Sometimes I go to church just to see my friends, but it wasn't really a priority for me. I graduated and started college at Georgia College and State University, and I attended there for a year and a half before transferring to UGA at the beginning of 2020. I moved to Athens and started getting acclimated to being a student here, and then boom, the pandemic hit. This brought on a ton of anxiety, and I don't like change, and I felt like everything was changing at once. And then on top of that, my boyfriend broke up with me. I had found an unhealthy sense of happiness in my relationship with him, which was then taken away. And in order to numb the pain and not be alone, I started spending time with the wrong crowd, drinking a lot, and being mindless. I ended up in some really bad situations, and one night I was raped. I felt embarrassed and ashamed, and I blamed myself for even getting into that type of situation. I didn't tell anyone until eventually my parents came and brought me home with them from Athens in August. They knew I wasn't in a good place and wanted to remove me from the trouble I was getting into. I felt like I was losing myself, and I knew that if I continued down the path I'd been on, that I risked losing my relationship with my parents too. While I was home, I started seeing my therapist and really reflecting on my life and my decisions. And one night, I was watching YouTube and saw a video of Carrie Job singing First Love. I watched it and I connected with the lyrics deeply. I knew I wanted my life to be different, and I started establishing my own faith for the first time. My mom bought me a new Bible and a devotional, and I started making a lot of changes to the way I was living. I came back to Athens and cut out the toxic habits and relationships I'd had, even though if it meant being lonely for a little while. My roommate and I came to a college night here at Athens Church, and I instantly felt connected. I joined a starting point group, which has been a major factor in growing my relationship with Jesus, and I started running to God instead of from Him. And I realized that He had been there for me all along. My life's completely different now, and I'm growing in my faith every single day. I'm so happy to be here today to say that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior.
This is my friend Cami, and Cami, what was so great about your story, as we were talking about backstage, is that you learned what it meant to have a faith of your own, and that you were growing up in a family that loved and followed Jesus, but it took some hard circumstances in which you found your faith of your own. You were able to find that, and Jesus was waiting for you when you were ready to turn to Him. Like I told you backstage, I believe that your story has hope in it, and that your story is going to have ripple effects because of your public declaration today. Because there are people in this audience, people who are watching online, who have the same story as you, and that are looking for that moment of hope and security and something that they need to hang their life on. And because of your story, they get to see that joy is possible, that hope is possible, that life is possible. And so because of your public profession of faith, it is my joy and honor to baptize you in the name of the Father who loves you, the Son who gave Himself for you, and the Spirit that now lives inside of you.